All right, Tim, I'd love to take a moment just to talk about low energy availability and why potentially it's one of the leading factors as to why so many people struggle to find this level of consistency within a training program. Why so many can struggle with low level injuries along the way, why some people can never kind of feel like they're ever seeing the kind of full potential of their training. And it's because potentially they've fallen innocently into a state of low energy availability. Now, the reason I have any authority in this space is because I've spent the last 15 years plus working with individuals of all ages, all abilities, from young, old, beginner runners through to elite runners, where they have struggled with bouts of low energy availability, innocently, intentionally, and we've discussed this, but it's something that isn't discussed openly enough, only a lot of the time in a reactive kind of conversation where someone has realized that they're now in this place. Now, some of the things we're going to talk about today absolutely going to be able to help you kind of navigate this better, how to kind of work through this better, some of the strategies and ways that we kind of integrate different things into our own training program here at SFE. But also it's a preventative thing. Like there is low energy availability is, it goes part and parcel with endurance-based training, high volume training. We're trying to stretch our potential. We're trying to see what we're capable of. As a result, we're going to lean down at times. We're going to struggle to eat enough to be able to perform at the levels that we want to. This is, as I said, part and parcel. This is kind of the behaviors that we need to be developing along the way. It's just whether we're being held accountable to this, whether we're being educated along this, along with this, or what our relationship with nutrition, with training, with our energy in general is. And this is what we need to be. I want to be able to talk openly about. My passion comes from a place of obviously having just the way things have panned out. Like me and my wife, when we first got into, Polly was a professional triathlete at one point. We were training full time. I was, being a full time coach, understanding and actually innocently ourselves falling into this trap. Not really understanding blood and hormonal profiling back then, understanding the ramifications of having contraception whilst training high volumes of training. Understanding how important it is for a woman to understand what their menstrual cycle's doing, their hormones are doing. And this is, 10, 15 years ago now. But from there, obviously having a sports science background degree, having worked with hundreds, if not probably thousands of people now, having worked with some leading experts in this field, from Rena McGregor through to Dr. Nikki Kay to we got so many different individuals that I've worked with over the years. And as a result, we've built a team here and we've worked as a multidisciplinary team at SFE. As a result, we work very closely with endocrinologists, doctors. We do consistent blood panels with every one of our clients when they need to, because we want to make sure that when we are building out a program for someone, we're going to prevent any signs of low energy availability creeping in. But guys, low energy availability, sometimes defined as red S, is when someone's energy, kind of their dietary energy intake isn't sufficient enough to support the energy that they're kind of expending during. So essentially, someone who has got a lot of training, they've got a lot going on in their life, they've got high energy output, they're not doing sufficiently enough to put energy in to their body, and that's going to come in different shapes and forms. So does the energy output. I think it can be very, very simple thinking to think that you just quantify, you just calculate the amount of energy that you're putting out just based on your training sessions. That's a very innocent, potentially ignorant way to think. And we are seeing a massive increase in people struggling with this because of algorithm-based training programs, app-based training programs, faceless-based training programs, where there's no deeper understanding of where you're coming from. The Runner app, for instance, sorry to call it out, but it's one of the most prominent in the world right now. Understanding, do they truly understand the nature of the human that they're working with? What their nutritional behaviors, recovery behaviors are, what their previous training history looks like, their previous injury history looks like. Is there a comprehensive, qualitative, personal conversation going on before they then embark on a 4, 5, 6 day a week training program that's going to push them towards marathon, ultra marathon distances, or chasing down a fast PB? Can you see, guys, this is this innocence where if you're not being asked the right questions because you're getting into it because you love it, it can be very easy for us to kind of just fall into this trap. But essentially, what I want to talk about, guys, is how we can kind of manage this better. And I've already kind of leaned into a few kind of key components there. It's understanding who you are to start with, what sort of background you're coming from, how experienced you are within your training, within your running, the relationships you have with your training, how, the education that you have in place in the first place, but then also your relationship with nutrition, relationship with recovery and rest. Stress is a major component of this conversation. How we manage and cope with stress is a huge piece of this puzzle that people don't even have a conversation about, right? Well, training is a mechanism that we lean into, myself included, on a day-to-day basis to manage life stress, business stress, work stress. It allows me personally to recalibrate my mind at times and go, right, in what order do I need to be working through here? That mechanism can then become abused. And this is where the psychological piece of this puzzle comes in. Is like there is a depth to all of us that we've all coming from different places in our life. And there is a spectrum that I've always worked to and I've respected with every single person I've ever worked with. There is a spectrum that we're all on, okay? And we all have thoughts and we all have behaviors and routines and habits based off our lifestyle growing up. Like, the lives that we've led, the cultures that we've been born into, the different kind of relationships that we've had to experience, go through, the trauma that we've experienced. We've all probably had family members, friends, there's a lot of stories that, that we have to navigate through our life. Training is a mechanism to allow us to maybe process that, and in a healthy way and in an unhealthy way. Endurance training can be very unhealthy. It's an addiction that no one really wants to talk about either. I'm addicted to training. I love it. It's a mechanism that I truly love to lean into on a daily basis. It makes me feel good in my body. It makes me feel like, it cleanses my mind at times. It kind of allows me to kind of, recalibrate in those important moments. It gives me that personal time, that quiet time to then be able to just kind of, but also gives me that escapism, that freedom when I'm out on the trails, when I'm out on the bike, etc. Like it's a wonderful piece to my life that I never want to lose. But low energy availability is something that it needs to be understood on a much, much greater level. Let's talk about nutrition, guys. Nutrition. I am not going to go into the nth degree in terms of like the detail, in terms of what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating. I'm not going to be asking you to weigh yourself every 5 seconds. What I'm going to be asking you to do is respect the fact that you have a high energy output. Some of you are training 4, 5, 6 days a week. Some of you are doing double days. A lot of our SFE crew are doing double days, 6 days a week. But there has to be an equal focus on the amount of energy input. And so when I'm looking at someone's training program, when we're building out a comprehensive training program, it's like, right, what does this person do for work? Like, what has this person done up until this point? So coming onto this program, what's their weight done? What's their kind of training look like before this? What have they got coming up in their life? We're trying to roughly calculate their energy output, because when we are looking at building out a program, we're looking to then map that on top of someone's busy work life. They're studying, they're a parent, they're whatever. We want to be calculating, right, there's a big output coming on here. Can we calculate this? Can we start to put some numbers onto this? Maybe, 2,000 calories is average, an average woman. Can we add 500 to that? Can we add 1,000 calories to that? Because someone is wanting to run upwards almost 100 kilometers a week on top of a busy work life. Is that crazy? No, it's just hard to compute though, right? It's very hard to compute. How in the world do I put that much more nutrition into my body? This is where you start to meet some current behaviors where we then need to evolve those behaviors moving forwards. And there is no set plan. Like, there are people out there who are pushing food plans and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, when it comes to training, when it comes to coaching, you're working with the individual. You're working with helping that person navigate and build some new behaviors into their life, whether it's rehabilitating an injury, whether it's improving their nutrition, it's improving their recovery. There's multiple different aspects that we're trying to build in, improving their S&C, obviously, strength and conditioning. There are different ways you start to navigate this. Right, what's going to work for this individual? How can we start to increase their current meals, their snacks, their relationship? Some people, the language that you use has to be fair and considerate, because we all are triggered by different things at different times because of the other education or other inputs we've had, the other comparisons that we're making with other people around us. So in terms of our nutrition, it's like, right, what am I currently doing? Where do I want to be in 4, 8, 6, 16 weeks time? I want to be doing twice the volume. I want to be running twice as fast. I want to be et cetera, et cetera. My energy output is going to be that much higher, that much greater. And I want to talk in layman's terms because we're trying to find sustainable, repeatable behaviors. It's the most important thing when it comes to managing a low energy availability, like understanding that you can do all of it. You can run, you can train, amazing amounts of volume onto a very busy working lifestyle. Is respecting the relationship between nutrition and then obviously recovery. So when it comes to our nutrition, we just need to know that we're putting in enough. And that is going to be a You've got to craft that as an art to that. It's understanding what you're currently doing and bringing in these new behaviors that are starting to support that. And then listening to your training, listening to your body, and then building that relationship with someone who you could be accountable to, you can soundboard with. It's always going to be that process. You ask any athlete of anyone who's doing anything a lot of, nutrition is the biggest part of it because it's such a hard thing to like keep doing sustainably well. But that's the point of it. If you want to, it's funny, like we're happy to push and work our butts off when it comes to our training, but then when it comes to the nutritional piece, a lot of us just fly by the seat of our pants. We can't afford to do that. We need to be going right every couple of weeks. Am I still on point? Am I still being consistent, or have I got big gaps that are starting to creep in throughout my training days? Do I need to be doing more in said places? Just good quality conversation. Recovery is a massive piece. Energy out versus energy in. Where is that energy in coming from? It's not just from the nutrition. It's going to come from that time sitting still, laying still, like letting your body, letting that adaptation process take place. Some people, a lot of people I work with, they are firing on all cylinders. They want to be successful across the board. Love it. I'm the same, again. But respecting the process when it comes to ensuring that you have enough energy availability in your body so that your brain is functioning well, your tendons, your ligaments, your muscle tissue are repairing. We're not eroding away at our very bone density. These are the key things that we need to be understanding. Like if we are creating a stimulus from our training, where is the adaptation occurring? It's not occurring in the 4 to 5 crappy hours sleep that you've had. If you're someone who thinks a lot, struggles with their sleep anyway, how in the world are you going to be the better, keep building a better body, finding those more consistent results if you're lacking that other half of the puzzle, which is the recovery piece, the adaptation piece? Okay, adaptation. For some of you, adaptation is not, recovery is not the word. Adaptation, you want to see the results of your training. Adaptation is where you want to be, guys. Like I need to fuel that fire in you, that other side of the coin. I need you to be motivated to recover more, to adapt so you can see the results. Blood and hormones, understanding this, understanding your endocrinology is something that some of us don't want to see because it's very revealing. It can tell us exactly what we don't want to know sometimes. And I've always wanted to respect that. I think any program coach that is pushing high volumes of training onto a busy working lifestyle should be asking these types of critical questions. What does it look like under the hood? In terms of your hormonal balance, your key blood markers, your iron levels, your vitamin D, like understanding your levels of estrogen, testosterone that's flowing through your body, the very building blocks of your body. Okay, the very hormones, those key those key things that are going to build bones, help you build stronger bones, help you actually recover and actually repair those ligaments and tendons. There is countless research that shows if we are low in estrogen, low in testosterone, we are going to be compromised across the board. It's going to affect us on a cellular, intracellular level. Our bodies simply won't have the building blocks to build the greater levels of tissue. We cannot build lean muscle tissue, which has got to be the obsession as an athlete. We want to be wrapped in a lovely sheath of lean muscle tissue. We're never going to have that if we don't have those key values within your estrogen and testosterone. We need to have strong numbers in your iron because it's going to be the thing that carries our blood around our body, like carries the hemoglobin. It's going to be the thing that actually oxidizes our body, gives us that energy. These numbers can be found very quickly, guys. And it's whether we want to or not. That's a question that then we start to, but it's if you're on contraception, if the conversations around HRT as we move into different chapters of our life as a woman, as a man, we need to understand that we do have measures now that allow us to maintain and sustain levels of health, to sustain. But it's having these conversations, and a lot of people aren't having them. They've never had them because it's very easy in this day and age to just apply more training to our bodies. We just do more. We keep doing more. We can keep asking. We can go to bed later. We can get up earlier. We can keep going longer at the weekends. The critical questions when it comes to helping someone prevent injury, to prevent low energy availability, is going to come from us having these more critical questions answered or asked on a regular basis within your training. Injuries come thick and fast because of this low energy availability. To sit your mind, your brain will be compromised, your decision making. There are that adaptation process, in terms of resynthesizing your muscle tissue, in terms of replenishing your glycogen stores, oxidizing your fats, everything. All those wonderful functions of our body will become compromised because you're simply working with less. Low energy availability for too long a period. There are symptoms that people seem to shrug off, but loss of a period cannot be the case. Like it's a wonderful It's a wonderful thing for a woman to be able to like recognize that they're in a place that where their body's in homeostasis, that it's ticking along nicely, and it is signified by a regular period, a regular menstrual cycle. With a man, it's going to be an erection. It's going to be waking up and at that having a libido. Like, again, these are conversations that just need to be had as a coach. When I'm responsible for someone's health, these are the most critical questions we've got to be asking, guys. And they're not being asked. People think it's quite confronting, but it's like, well, you want to run 50 to 100K a week for the next 16 weeks. You want to take on a multi-day event. You want to take on an Ironman a couple of times this year. You want to train 12 months for the next 12 months and not worry about bone stress injuries, not worry about long-term tendinopathies. And these are the big pieces of the puzzle. Psychology, guys. The psychological piece is something that I will, and as a team here, we respect with the utmost, utmost kind of respect in terms of there is a psychological element to this where we need to understand that some of us, we're all, as I said, we're all on a spectrum. And when it comes to our behaviors, a lot of it can be stemmed from our psychology, our behaviors, our routines, the cultures that we've grown up, our life stories that we've grown up with, and we've had to navigate ourselves, trauma that we've had to experience. It's respecting those lines. At SFE, we've always had a multidisciplinary team approach because of this. When it comes to our eating patterns, our eating behaviors, we are all experiencing disordered eating behaviors at some point. Whether I shouldn't eat, should I eat before I train, should I not eat before I train? I feel a bit of guilt because I ate X, but now I'm going out for a run. But these are all somewhat on that spectrum, right down the other end. But then we come all the way, but we can track these behaviors as you know, depending on who we are, what we experience, all the way through to clear eating disorders. And when we start to move into these kind of psychological behaviors, etc., we need to know that there's a line that we're moving into where we've had to part ways with people over the years because it was never a training issue. It was always an issue that was based upon that individual's person. It was personal work that they needed to be working on, and that was outside of our remit. But it was identifying that and helping them navigate those decisions and understanding that actually we looked at nutrition, we looked at training, we looked at the relationship around what they were trying to achieve. And through great conversation as a coach, great, working in our consultations, working on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis like we do, there's another part of the conversation that we're realizing, and we've realized over time that actually this needs further support. There's further education here. And that is one of the most important pieces of this conversation, guys. When it comes to low energy availability, there is a wonderful innocence to it. But there's also an ignorance. There is a choice where there's an intention where someone is looking to abuse their relationship with training. They're looking to push themselves to the furthest point imaginable to destruction. And that's when we need to recognize what we're looking to achieve out of their training and what we're trying to work through. And this is where this educational piece comes in, because most people I've ever worked with, they just love to train. They want to live a wonderful, active lifestyle. They want to do it for as long as humanly possible. And they flirt with everything. I've worked with people who love to climb, to run, to walk, to hike, to swim, to run, to do all of it. But to lose that ability, guys, to lose this ability. And the severity of this conversation is that people are out there with femoral stress, they've got stress fractures, they've got screws in their hips, or they're having to go into surgery. They've got multiple kind of tibial stress fractures over their time, and they are now more susceptible than ever. But it's because they've never had these conversations, and if they don't take action, they may continue to be in this place because they're not having these quality conversations around the importance of their blood and hormonal health, their nutrition, their recovery behaviors, their relationship with the type of training they're following, their S&C. Like, how strong are they? Have they truly rehabilitated themselves back to a level of strength and conditioning that is going to meet the demands of their training? Huge piece of the puzzle, guys. And I will spend the rest of my career like working in this field because it just comes part and parcel with building great endurance people that want to just go long, go far, have adventure, see how fast they can go. But I will always take it seriously when it comes to making sure that person's level of health is at the forefront. Because as soon as when you have great health, you have all the ability to do anything you want with your performance. You can take it. But we live in a world right now where people aren't putting enough emphasis into these other areas. And I don't sometimes struggle to articulate that within social media world and everything because it's not long form enough. I don't know how, I don't know how to cut through sometimes. But I can't tell you guys how important it is. If you want to understand how to manage and never have to worry about low energy availability, and to if you have struggled with this in the past, how are you never going to have to deal with it in the future and move past this and have a regular menstrual cycle, have great hormones, have great bone density, have great performances week in, week out, month after month, train every day of the week if you want to. It's taking an understanding of some of these variables I've talked about today. And Definitely not saying it's something that it's like one and done. It's something that you actually talk about on a regular basis. And we've got, it's part of the narrative within our coaching programming, because I want, we want people to do everything they want to do, but to do that, we have to earn the right, and we earn the right through being aware of what our nutritional behaviors are, aware of what we need to be doing. And there's a lot of people keeping their head under the sand right now. There's a lot of people that are choosing to not understand this because of they don't have that degree-based education. They've come into it, and they what they're coaching with, what the coaching program that you're working from doesn't have that depth. And it's not fair, because there's an innocence when we start and go into we embark on a training program. We're doing it for the love of it. We're at the excitement of it, the romanticism of it. There is theory to it. There is a logic. There is a science to it that we need to respect. There is a balance, an order of things where, again, energy in versus energy out. But that is a balance that is going to be unique to all of us. And so working out what that pattern is for us, that strategy is, wonderful, unique thing that deserves time. Because once you have it, once you understand it, you can then work with it. You can understand, like, everyone has a different tolerance to training, how much, in relation to what the type of work life they have, the family life they have, the injury history they've had. Everyone has a different tolerance, the amount of training work, volume, miles, distances, time on feet they have to do per week as well. And then a nutrition. What is that going to look like unique to them, following whatever nutritional strategy they have, like whatever, cuisines they prefer to eat, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start to really understand this, you start to go, okay, I'm building some momentum here. Like, I haven't had those sedentary issues for a long time now. I haven't had time off from training for ages. I've been training for 18, 24 months now. We've got people like that doing this on a regular basis. We've got people who've had double stress fractures who are running 100 miles for fun. Type 2 fun, right? So we've got people who have built these behaviors in. And you'll have heard in previous podcasts, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's hard. There's a learning curve here, but it's not fair, because you're someone, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're someone who is active. You are proactive. You're wanting to know how you can do better. These are the areas that you can go into. And this is what I will always endeavor to do with anyone I work with, is empower someone to be able to understand this. And this is what we endeavor to do at Strength and Endurance. It's been critical to what we've always, the major essence of what we do. It's the future, guys. The future isn't following algorithm-based, faceless kind of programs. It's going to be understanding you as a person, because that person, you, is going to evolve over the next number of years and move into different times of your life. And you're going to have to navigate those. And that is what I'm very curious about: educating, understanding, helping someone really take control and feel empowered about. All right, guys, enough from me. Love this topic, because I think there's a wonderful complexity here that when you understand it and you can work with it, it's just a part of being human. But it can be also one of the scariest things as well, because when you don't feel like you have any understanding of it or control of it, or you don't know how to work through it, you're just caught in this vicious cycle. But just know, we've got multiple different people right now who have had worked through this and who are just cruising along right now. They're ticking along very nicely, because they've kind of met a couple of these kind of areas, and we've navigated them together, and they're training very high volumes, pushing PBs, but also just living the lifestyle they want to live. All right, guys, any questions? Reach out, please. Don't feel like I try to be as human as possible with with this type of stuff, but I just want you guys to know that it comes from a place of care, consideration, but also I want to see what you're good for. Don't want to see you push yourself, but it's always going to come from this more measured, logical approach. All right, guys, speak to you soon.